On this channel, we've talked about many controversial figures in the online landscape, from to groomers to even deranged egomaniac. One thing has always remained consistent across all of them. That is the fact that a lot of their crimes or degeneracy is only confined to the digital realm. So that's why today, I like to switch it up a bit and talk about somebody fairly controversial in the eyes of many artists across the world. And that somebody is Banksy, a UK artist best known for his widely controversial pieces. Banksy is what many would say the poster child for the street art movement, and all this without a semblance of his face being shown to the public. Sprinkle that in with a little political commentary and activism, and you have yourself a recipe for disaster and also success. Today, I attempt to tell his story and how he rose to prominence. From commentary on slave labor to shredding his own art piece after it had been sold for millions, this is the story of Banksy, graffiti art's most controversial artist. Born in Bristol, England, Banksy's childhood is one that has remained fairly anonymous due to him keeping his true identity a secret. While we may not know much about their upbringing, we can pinpoint the exact year he started to get recognized for his art. As in the 90s, Banksy's art started to get recognized by the general public due to the talent on display. It wouldn't be until the 2000s where we would see Banksy start to take on his signature iconography and to start communicating his message through his pieces. It is also in the 2000s where he would start using stencils to make the process of making the art a bit easier. While Banksy wasn't too controversial around this time, it wouldn't take long for him to start showing a bit of character. From 2003 to 2005, Banksy was sneaked into some of the biggest, most well-regarded art museums on the planet while being fully disguised and being recorded on camera. Two of the biggest names being the Metropolitan Museum of Art and Tate Brighton. Banksy's goal when entering these museums was to put up some of his own art, and as is always the case with Banksy, all these pieces had a clear message. Banksy soon after would get on a call with NPR to be interviewed, where he would go into detail about how he managed to pull this off.
Do you see yourself as an artist, as a bandit, as a prankster, or all of the above?
Painter and decorator.
A painter and decorator who happens to hang his work in the Louvre.
Yeah, well, you don't want to get stuck in the same line of work your whole life long, do you?
It was a pretty cool stunt, what can I say? However, let's take a look at something more widely known in the history of Banksy.
First glance, this looks like a normal exhibition, but this being Banksy, things are never quite what they seem. This is called...
In October 2005, Banksy would hold his first art exhibition, naming it Crude Oils. This exhibit's aim was to remix a lot of old Renaissance era paintings and to sprinkle a bit of political commentary on top. This exhibition was also expected to be like your typical art exhibition, where guests could go around and take a look at some of Banksy's best work at the time. But if you know anything about Banksy, you'd know Crude Oils was far from typical, as the venue was chocked full of live rats that would go around bothering guests of the exhibit, with the rats often leaving their feces and piss on the museum floor. Banksy's reasoning for pulling off such a stunt was explained via someone there to represent him. Rats represent the triumph of the little people, the undesirables and the unloved. Despite the efforts of the authorities, they've survived, they've flourished, and they've won. Wherever you stand in London, you're never more than 10 feet away from someone who knows some boring facts about rats. That, combined with the atmosphere which one journalist described as a melodramatic post-Holocaust, helps to make this exhibit go down as one of Banksy's finest, with it being covered by news stations all across London. Banksy ended the year 2006 with a bang. Barely Legal was Banksy's third major exhibition. It was held in a warehouse in Los Angeles on the weekend of September 16th, 2006. The event was set to be a, quote, 3-day vandalized warehouse extravaganza. So you all may ask, what did Banksy have up his sleeve this time? Well, you see, the exhibit hosted a literal live elephant with art painted all over his body, which leaflets handed out at the event stated were intended to draw attention to the issue of world poverty. There's an elephant in the room. There's a problem we never talk about. The fact is that life is not getting any fairer. 1.7 billion people have no access to clean drinking water. 20 billion people live below the poverty line. Every day, hundreds of people are made to feel physically sick by morons at art shows telling them how bad the world is, but never actually doing something about it. Anybody want a free glass of wine? The planning for this event was made in collaboration with the printmaker Richard Duardo, who was recommended to Banksy to help him set up his entire Barely Legal exhibit. Duardo claims to not have known about Banksy prior to the making of the event, and even recalled not hearing from him after securing the job. This was until Banksy reached out 10 days prior to the event's actual opening. Barely Legal saw appearances from many well-known people in the art and entertainment world. With all this, the event gained wide coverage and went on without a hitch. Banksy had dipped his toes into the world of storytelling beforehand, back in 2001, 2002, and one of his biggest years, 2005, with his books Banging Your Head Against a Brick Wall and Existentialism, amongst others. However, in 2010, it would seem Banksy wanted to dip his toes into the world of filmmaking, with his highly popular Exit Through the Gift Shop documentary, which told the story of the street artist Thierry Guetta, who had filmed many street artists while they worked, but never did anything with the footage. Banksy took this footage and used it combined with new footage to tell the rise of Thierry. The film went on to be nominated for Best Documentary Feature at the 83rd Academy Awards and has a score of 7.9 out of 10 on its IMDb page. Despite all this, critics of the film were still divided and chose to accept it at face value, while others chose to see it in a much different light, with some even accepting the documentary as satire. I mean, look at who directed the film. I can't blame them. In 2015, Banksy would construct his biggest project to date, Dismaland, a temporary project made by Banksy to pitch in his ideas for an amusement park / art show. The project hosted many works of art made by other artists, and Banksy commonly described it as a family attraction that acknowledged inequality and impending catastrophe. Nice to know he hadn't changed. Perhaps to reinforce this narrative, the park had been intentionally installed in the middle of an unfashionable sea town, which was a common place for low-income families. The park was an obvious play on Disneyland, with a seemingly suitable inspiration taken from Dismayland, a series of art pieces made by the artist Jeff Gillette. There were a lot of quote-unquote attractions at the park, some being recreations of popular pieces, and others being, well, a fake security checkpoint built out of cardboard. Dismaland, after its closing, was eventually repurposed as a camp for the less fortunate, so in the end, the park set out to be a commentary on inequality, and eventually was used to help treat said inequality, accomplishing both of its goals. In 2018, Girl with the Balloon, a canvas made by Banksy all the way back in 2006, was set to appear at an auction. The canvas had been auctioned off for over $1 million in front of a crowd of people. After the sale had been made, the piece was promptly sent through a shredder, which was hidden within the frame of the piece. While it's not known how exactly the shredder was activated during the show, Banksy has come out to state he didn't mean to only shred part of the piece. He later would release a sample video which would show how the piece was initially meant to be shredded entirely, stating, quote, "In rehearsals it worked every time." In a surprising turn of events, the lady who won the bid decided to go through with the purchase regardless, with the piece's new name being Love is in the Bin. The event had gained worldwide coverage by news stations from all over, with many calling it quite possibly the biggest prank in art history, which of course is an achievement in its own right. Over the years, Banksy has faced many legal troubles, one being how some of his exhibits are unauthorized, and others being how he can't legally own the copyright to his own work due to his anonymous nature. However, fortunately for him, he was able to apply for the trademark of his work. Banksy is a really interesting concept to me, because it's inherently harmless. Over the years, many people have had theories about who Banksy is, and many even think it's not just one person, but instead a group of people. Really, blending into creepypasta territory here, aren't we? I hope you all enjoyed this video, considering it's different from what I usually cover in my documentaries, quote unquote. However, this doesn't mean I won't return to these types of subjects. But anyways, with all that being said, here's some more videos of mine I think you'll really enjoy. I've been Just Quilted, and until next week, later.